So I have to put up the disclaimer. It's going to come up and cycle through in this. I think copyright fair use notice should come up. But this video is going to be about a partial part of the presentation from church this morning. What was used was an image from the Voyager 1 spacecraft, which was one of the early interplanetary missions, but then it left the solar system back in the 90s, supposedly. And Carl Sagan, the late great Carl Sagan, had requested that maybe it might be a good idea to capture an image as the spacecraft leaves the solar system, quote unquote. Now, most of you watching are probably already aware of this. Is sort of an idiotic statement. The Earth is flat. If you're aware that it is, for me to say it, it's idiotic. And if you're not aware of it, for me to say it is idiotic. The Earth is flat and enclosed. We are not living on a round spinning ball in the vast vacuum of space. And quite frankly, it doesn't glorify God to use those ideals, the billions of galaxies and all of that out in the vastness of space. In Deuteronomy, it says that we are not to worship as the heathen do. So where is it? Right here. It's in here someplace. Let me see. There you go. Deuteronomy, what is it? Deuteronomy, for you to look it up yourself. Here, we'll show you on the screen. Let's see. Let's turn this stuff on. All right. So, it's Deuteronomy 12. We'll maximize this, right? So you should be able to read it. The Israelites are told, "You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way." It says, right? How do these nations serve their gods? Okay? Warning against idolatry. Right? Okay. There's another place in here, though, where it says to tear down the ash. Right. Yeah. It says, you'll tear down the altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their asherim with fire. Asherah poles. This is ESV version. Okay? You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way. Okay? NASA is, how do I get this back now? NASA and scientism is a form of idolatry. We worship these scientists and NASA imagery, you know? And where is it? Matthew. I don't think a lot of people are aware. Well, a lot of people listening to these kind of videos are aware, but a lot of people that I know in my church are not aware of the beginnings of NASA. And I worked at NASA for 12 years. And when you're there, you get caught up in the excitement, like so many things in the world. unaware of the actual source of NASA and science and all of that. So we'll just show you here. Well, let me show you what came up in the service this morning. So this image is called the pale blue dot. It's from JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, right? And there it is. There's that pale blue dot right there in this image. Let's go back to full screen again so we can see the whole thing. Right? So they explain here, JPL's website, that it was a narrow angled color image of the Earth dubbed pale blue dot. Okay? According to them, this is, what was it, 4 billion miles from Earth. Okay? And about 32 degrees above the ecliptic. Because, you know, we orbit the sun in an elliptic orbit, ellipse. Okay? So, and they say that the Earth's crescent was only 0.12 pixel. So, in this image, 1 pixel, it wasn't even, just barely over 1/10 of a pixel. And that's supposed to be the Earth from 4 billion miles away. Except for the Earth is flat and enclosed. And space is a fallacy, okay? But this was presented as an amazing example of God's creation this morning at church. And these are the things that trouble me, and I'm accused of being a know-it-all continuously. And I'm trying to help them understand that they're deceived, but they don't want to hear it. And they don't even look into it. Now, I spent years studying this stuff. You know, this isn't my truth, it's the truth. The world in which we live is ruled by Satan. Jesus said, the God of this world has been judged. Okay? Look it up. Just Google that and you'll find the scripture. So, then the person giving the presentation, glorifying God, went on to quote from Carl Sagan, and they even said he's an atheist. Okay? So it was from Carl Sagan's book, The Pale Blue Dot. Okay? And this is what was read this morning. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you have ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. There, once again, that pale blue dot, right there where the cursor's pointing in the image, back here. That pale blue dot, right there, supposedly is us, an insignificant speck in the vastness of the universe, and somehow that glorifies God. And that we're insignificant, we're not so important. But see, Scripture says otherwise. And this does not glorify God. Once again, we are worshiping as the heathen do. Okay? Heathen really? Yes. Let me show you this. If I can get back to it. How do we get back to it in here. Doesn't want to let me back. Great. Well, here's Jack Parsons. This was one of the creators of JPL. Okay. Oh, there we go. The back. JPL is Jet Propulsion Laboratory. That was who created the Voyager spacecraft, quote unquote. Okay. And took this image and processed it of the pale blue dot. So Jack Parsons. And here's the thing. This information is freely available for anyone who looks. All you have to do is look. But people refuse to. They want to believe. They want to believe the satanic lies. This is a satanic lie. Okay? Satan said, it's written. Google it so you can find the scripture. I will rise above the stars of heaven. I shall be like the Most High. This is a satanic ideal. We're rising above the stars of heaven. Okay? It's not real. So here's Jack Parsons. He was an American rocket engineer and rocket propulsion researcher, chemist, and a Thelemite occultist. Okay? Thelema is a social or spiritual philosophy derived from Western esotericism. The word Thelema itself, or Thelema itself is ancient or Koine Greek for will. Well, it's most often regarded as a religion, a new religious movement, and contemporary mystery religion in particular. Okay, so here's over here. After a brief involvement with Marxism in 1939, Parsons converted to Thelema, the English occultist Aleister Crowley's new religious movement. Okay? Aleister Crowley, if you don't know who he is, I highly recommend you find out who he is so you understand who was called the most wicked man ever. Okay? But Jack Parsons created JPL. Now, we either believe what God has said or we don't. There's really not an in-between. Okay? It says, I believe in 18. This is Matthew 7. This is in a New King James. All right. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. Jack Parsons was a demonist. He was an occultist. He worshipped Satan, literally. In Luke, it says, for a good tree bringeth not forth corrupt fruit, neither doth a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. This is not good fruit, people. You've got to come to understand the earth is flat. We don't live on a ball spinning in space. Now, there's plenty of resources. I mean, I could spend all day showing you proofs, but spend some time coming to understand this truth. This is why you've got to understand these things, because you're deceived to be using this kind of information to glorify God. You're deceived. Okay? If that's, I don't know, I'm being accused of being a know-it-all, and I'm not humble. All right? But I'm laying this out there for you to test it for yourself. And here's a video by one of my favorite guys, The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction. And we'll just watch a little piece of it. It just came out yesterday.
Version of catharsis and self-emancipation and all that. Even going back to Carl Sagan, who did not really identify himself as being spiritual at all, per se, but yet it's the same message, really, when you listen to it.
See that star? You mean the bright red one, his daughter asks in return. Yes, it might not be there anymore. It might be gone by now. Exploded or something. Its light is still crossing space, just reaching our eyes now. But we don't see it as it is. We see it as it was. Many people experience a stirring sense of wonder when they first confront this simple truth. Why? Why should it be so compelling? The immense distances to the stars and the galaxies mean that we see everything in space in the past. Some as they were before the Earth came to be. Telescopes are time machines. Long ago, when an early galaxy began to pour light out into the surrounding.
All of this fabulous imagery is fake. It's computer generated. This is not what the universe even looks like.
Confront this simple truth. Why?
It's fake,
why should it be so compelling?
In our psyche, it's embedded in our knowing. We've been deceived, people.
The immense distances to the stars and the galaxies mean that we see everything in space in the past.
Amazing. I hope. Let me turn this audio back up. I hope that I'm making sense. If I wasn't loud enough last time, this imagery is fake. Okay, all of it. Now, Will is not promoting this stuff. He knows.
Its light is still crossing space.
He knows that it's all fake, computer generated. Just amazing. This is what we're sold as being the universe that God created. It's not. We live in a flat, enclosed realm. God is literally just above us. Literally. Let me see if I can find an image. That's not it. There it is. Ancient Hebrew conception of the universe. That's what we live in. Okay? That is what we live in. I hope I don't do these let me talk to the camera things very well. If there was a person on the other end that I'm talking to, this would be smoother. It would go better. I hope what I'm saying is making sense. I'm not trying to tell people that they're stupid. If you're deceived and someone is warning you that you're being fooled, Galatians says, I tell you the truth, so now I'm your enemy. It doesn't make any sense why people get angry with me when I tell them you're deceived, but you don't know it. Well, that's the nature of deception now, isn't it? Anyway, God bless y'all.
Why should it be so compelling? The immense distances to the stars and the galaxies mean that we see everything in space in the past. Some as they were before the Earth came to be. Telescopes are time machines. Long ago, when an early galaxy began to pour light out into the surrounding darkness, no witness could have known that billions of years later, some remote clumps of rock and metal, ice and organic molecules would fall together to make a place called Earth, or that life would arise and thinking beings evolve who would one day capture a little of that galactic light and try to puzzle out what had sent it on its way. We can recognize here a shortcoming, in some circumstances serious, in our ability to understand the world. Characteristically, willy-nilly, we seem compelled to project our own nature onto nature. Man, in his arrogance, thinks himself a great work, worthy of the interposition of a deity. Darwin wrote telegraphically in his notebook. More humble, and I think truer, to consider him created from animals. We're Johnny-come-latelys. We live in the cosmic boondocks. We emerged from microbes and muck. Apes are our cousins. Our thoughts and feelings are not fully under our own control. There may be much smarter and very different beings elsewhere, and on top of all this, we're making a mess of our planet and becoming a danger to ourselves. The trapdoor beneath our feet swings open. We find ourselves in bottomless free fall.